This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 404 for Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this week, Lou Page is back at Busy Zombie Lord and all the social media that matters, and of course, one half of Zombies Ate My Podcast. Which half are you, Lou?
I am the part that brings the zombies.
You bring the zombies. So Ryan slays the zombies. Oh, I see.
Yes.
So what you're saying is Zombies Ate My Podcast is your fault.
Yes, it is.
There's always that one person in those zombie movies, right? There's always that one dude that thinks that they're above it all.
There is a reason why I am the zombie lord.
Like the Pied Piper of zombies?
Yes.
What does that sound like? You're just wailing on the bagpipes and then a bunch of zombies following you down the street?
Exactly.
It's been a while because we had such a big drop in the middle. I know what I've been spending my entire life doing, and it all revolves around barbecue. What have you been up to the last little while? Anything fun?
On Zamp, not to plug my show because I never do that. We did a watch along with fans for Army of the Dead, Zack Snyder's new zombie movie that just hit Netflix.
Oh, how's that?
Okay. I will give Zack Snyder credit. It's not a superhero movie, so it's good.
Right. Yeah, because he doesn't like superheroes. Why would you expect him to make a good superhero music?
Exactly. It's very enjoyable. There was about 5 of us that watched along with me, Ryan, one of our listeners from Japan, another listener from out in the Midwest, and there was another one that bounced in and out. And we watched the movie together and chatted, and we put it up as an episode. So if you're going to watch Army of the Darkness and you want a commentary track, can't go any better than watching me and Ryan watching a zombie movie for the first time.
Is it Army of Darkness or Army of the Dead?
Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead. Yeah, I think I saw that kind of scroll by, and Netflix like, hey, based on what you've been watching, we think you'd like this. And I was like, oh, Netflix, we don't know each other at all.
It's not really a scary movie. It's more like an action movie with zombies.
Oh, okay. All right.
Think of it as it's Ocean's 11 meets an action movie with zombies.
Okay. Who's in it?
Dave Bautista stars.
Okay.
And then the rest of the cast is a bunch of people you recognize from bit parts, but nobody that's gonna like stand out. You know who is in it too? That you'll recognize. You watched Luke Cage, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Remember the guy who played Shades?
Shades.
He was the Hispanic kid with the shades that wanted to kill Luke Cage and was like manipulating things from behind the scenes, but you thought he was like a low-level guy and he was actually a high-level guy.
I'm not ringing a bell.
If you saw him, you'd recognize him. As soon as you see him, you'd be like, oh, he's always a jerk. And as soon as you see him in this, he's a jerk. And you're like, oh, okay, he's going to die soon. And then he dies. And you go, oh, okay.
Tig Notaro is in this.
Yes.
They were in Star Trek, so I know them from Star Trek.
Yes, and Tig Notaro's in this, and the best part of this is her entire... Everything she was filmed in this movie doing is After Effects. Originally there was another actor in her role, and he got really, really bad Me Too'd, to the point where he was almost ready to go to jail over it.
Oh shit.
And so Zack Snyder was stuck with all these scenes with this guy in it that he can't show, because that's gonna take away from his movie.
Mm-hmm.
So he reached out and they cast Tig Notaro, and then they green screened her into every shot with that actor.
Good for them.
And
good for them.
She only met one actual cast member when she did her filming. There was some scene that they added that they needed one of the other actors to come in and film. And so she only met one person on set. She said every other scene she filmed was in front of a green screen and somebody else standing behind her, standing in
Wow.
front of her to represent them.
Represent
And
the
so
eye
she
line,
said,
yeah.
yeah, and she said she's never even met Dave Bautista, but she hopes to meet him someday, even though they have like 12 scenes in the movie together.
That's great. That's great. To clarify, I didn't say, "Oh shit," that the guy nearly went to jail. That's a good thing. I just mean that it's
Yes.
bad. It's terrible that that kind of stuff has happened, and good that Zack Snyder erased the douche knuckle from the movie. That's good.
It added to the budget, but he was like, "No, it's worth it. It's gonna hurt sales if I leave him in."
Yeah, well, it hurt sales. Also erase the actor. Like, just you don't get to be on screen if you're that kind of a person. Like, that's just how I think things should roll. Well, that's interesting. I might check that out. I like Dave Bautista, so I might have to check those out.
It's worth watching for him. And then there's a German kid who he's like, the whole plot of the movie is military transport is transporting a thing. An accident happens, the thing they're transporting gets out. You don't know where it came from or what it is, but it starts attacking soldiers, turns them into zombies. They're near Vegas because they're transporting it from Arizona. Zombies invade Las Vegas. Las Vegas is quarantined, and there's a wall now built around Las Vegas to keep the zombies in. And the guy who owns this really fancy hotel in Las Vegas wants to hire those that escaped Las Vegas to go back in and break into his vault and get his $350 million. That's the premise of the movie. And so Dave Bautista, like in Ocean's 11, has to put together a ragtag group of like 12 guys to break back into Las Vegas and kill the zombies and get to the vault.
It sounds like a good time. Like, if you don't take it too seriously, it sounds like a decent film. Like, did you like it?
I loved it. Actually, I was expecting to kind of be like meh on it, but it does a lot of creative things. Like, it never fully tells you where the zombies came from. It never fully tells you the whole story, but they keep leaving little hints about things, and people keep questioning Zack Snyder about it and being like, well, why did you put that thing in there? And he's like, I don't know, add questions to you, make you think about it. And then they're like, well, in this other scene, there's this thing. Did you notice that there's a thing in the background? He goes, yeah, I did that on purpose. And they're like, well, that makes us have more questions. And he's like, yeah, it should. And I'm like, wow, this is a very different Zack Snyder who doesn't want to spell everything up front and be an idiot.
Oh, God, beat you over the head with every last little detail. Yeah, really.
It's really like, they even joke at one point in the movie. They come across somebody else, like somebody else tried to break into the vault. And they literally have a line of dialogue where the guy goes, well, that's where we're in a time loop. That's us from the last time we tried this. And the other guy looks at him and goes, are you for serious? And he's like, maybe, maybe not. And then they never talk about it again. And you're like, wait a minute. Did this movie just go meta on me and mess with my head? What's going on?
Man, that's at least it sounds different. Like, it sounds like it's different,
very
different than most other films that I've seen in terms of, or heard of, at least, when I've heard the plot explained or the breakdown of the zombie movie, usually they all sound very, very similar, which is why I don't kind of.
I'll tell you this, if you see it, the one thing you won't like will be the same thing I didn't like. I didn't like the ending.
Horror movies always have a hard time sticking the ending. Always.
The ending I don't like because it breaks a bunch of the rules that establishes the beginning of the movie.
Mm.
And I was like, fine, okay, I get it. They're hinting that they might want to do a sequel. And apparently what I read is the ending was edited and changed because the pre-screenings of the film went so well. Netflix wants to do a sequel, so they reshot something to hint at a sequel. And I'm like, that's fine, I get it. Still stupid, though.
I've been looking for something because I enjoy Batista as Drax, of course, in Guardians of the Galaxy and the Endgame and all that kind of stuff. But I've been seeing most of the films that he's done outside of Marvel have been pretty family/kid films. I feel like both him and John Cena have they're taking the same career path post WWE, and I feel like they talked to Dwayne Johnson before they did that. I mean, and as you should, because he's obviously doing quite well. But surprisingly, as much as I enjoy Dwayne Johnson, I don't watch most of his movies because they're not aimed at me. You know, like they're at that family accessible, like, and I mean, believe me, I get it. I understand the appeal of family friendly. Most of my content is family friendly for that reason. But I just I think the last thing that I saw John Cena in where I didn't feel like it was a kid film, although it was still kind of a tween movie, was Bumblebee. Yeah. He played Agent Burns in that. Not the bad guy, but kind of like the main chase giver. Like he was trying to track down Bumblebee and he was trying to get to the bottom of everything. And in the end, he ends up being Bumblebee's friend, I think. Or letting him go or understanding the greater situation and being wise about it was essentially his, when all the other government people are being dickheads about stuff. And which worked because it works for him because it means that he's not it doesn't paint him as like just a bad guy. Like it's a deeper character than you'd expect. But yeah, I see
it's worth watching it if nothing else for his role. He's very different in it. He's an action star, but he's very quiet in the movie. Like he's not like an Arnold Schwarzenegger or a Sylvester Stallone. He leads this group and it's like, no, you go over there. He's very quiet, and it's a very different kind of. I'd say it's not Drax where he's making one-liners all the time or being goofy. It's not that. He's kind of like the one really serious character in the movie, and his acting is really good. Somebody's been taking acting lessons.
I think the last time I saw him in a trailer, it was for My Spy. That's the kind of movie that I'm thinking of. I'm seeing
I avoided that like a. I avoided that like a plague.
Well, I mean, it's not meant for me. It's the kind of thing like if you had kids that age, you'd have to go see it in theaters for a birthday party or something. But like it's I'm not going to go out of my way to see it on my own. I see Army of the Dead Las Vegas has a TV series, or is that this?
Nope, there is an animated. This did so well.
Nice.
Netflix is backing an animated prequel that's going to tell the story of all of our heroes and why they're going back into Las Vegas.
Okay, so Batista's doing the voiceover. Yeah. All right, cool. Right on.
If you're looking for something that's out of your wheelhouse, that movie wasn't that bad. It was. I've watched it twice now, so if that tells you anything.
Well, I'm glad that you've got so much to talk about that you've watched, because to talk about the main things that we've been doing, and normally this is where I would put in, like movies or video games or some other cool thing that I'm really into, and I've not really watched anything new. Like I just really haven't nothing's got their hooks into me yet. It's also been a very busy week with Minecraft, so this does kind of play into what I can do for this segment this week, which is actually lay everybody down with a bunch of recommendations. So for those that don't know, Minecraft, the Caves and Cliffs update part 1 came out yesterday. We'll have links to the trailer and the article and stuff in the show notes. And essentially what this is just it's one of the major updates to the game in the last year. And actually it's been a year since it was last updated, just about. And it adds a bunch of new blocks, some new stones under the ground, some new other kind of mechanics. There's new metals. There's copper is now in the game. Previously there was like iron and gold and diamond, and now there's copper as well. There's new game mechanics. There's new animals like goats, glow squid, and axolotls. There's all kinds of different plant blocks that they've added. It's just basically like having an expansion, pack for any video game. Minecraft has been doing this for quite some time. But because of the new rollover with the new content, if you are new to Minecraft, if you have a family member or a kid that's new to Minecraft and you want to learn a bit more, these update cycles are a great way to get started, because a lot of content creators start new worlds. Ironically, I'm not one of them, even though I will point you towards my content at the end of the show. But a lot of times, because of the cyclical nature, because of the complicated nature of updating an existing world with new content, essentially, for the layman's terms, you have to travel farther and farther afield to find new blocks and new content, because the game won't refresh parts of the world that you've already built in, because Mojang Studios, who makes Minecraft, don't want to accidentally delete anything that you've done, which makes sense. So What happens is a lot of times, especially with a big rollover, like this is now version 1.17 for the game, content creators will start a lot of new projects, and you'll have a chance to see, even if they're an experienced content creator and an experienced builder or a player, they're still going to have to start over. So you're still going to see a lot of early gameplay, a lot of kind of like getting back to basics. Sometimes people will do tutorials. Sometimes people will just go ahead and play or show you shortcuts about how to get going a little bit faster if it's something that you've done once but you're not really sure about. Anyway, what I thought I would do is recommend a bunch of YouTube and Twitch content creators, and I'll have links to all of their information in the show notes this week. So if you're new, or if you want someone just entertaining to watch, you want something that is short form, so like 20 minutes or less usually, unless it's a stream. But streams are not really narrative, so you can kind of pop in and pop out of a stream whenever you want, or pay attention, or back, like take a back seat and just kind of watch and do it while you're doing other work, like watch it while you're doing other work, and then chime in if you ever need to. I find that kind of content, it's how I learned how to play. I watched a content creator who I think is still doing stuff, but I haven't really watched their stuff in a very long time, called Paul Soares Jr. And that's essentially how I learned how to play the game. But I do the Spawn Chunks podcast every week with my friend Pixel Riffs, Johnny, who's been on this show a couple of times. And that's the first channel that I'll point you towards. And I won't bother giving all the links here on the show. Everybody is basically using their username as their handles online. So between Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, and the links in the show notes, you'll be able to find everybody. It's pretty straightforward. But Pixel Riffs is the creator behind the Minecraft Survival Guide, which he's been doing, or has been doing, for almost 2 years now. And it is a tutorial series. And it shows you kind of all the ropes. And he's brought that to a close because he's going to start it again in probably 2022 when another update comes to Minecraft. But right now what he's doing is something called a hardcore tutorial series. So hardcore is a game mode where if you die, that's it. You get one life, the world is locked. You can fly around in it and look around, but you can't play in it anymore. So the penalty for dying is you lose all the stuff that you've been creating. So you kind of have to go in there with that knowledge. Not necessarily a mode that I recommend for people that are new to Minecraft, but if you've never played hardcore before and you want to know what concerns and all that kind of stuff you have to deal with, watching Johnny do it on his channel would probably provide you with some insight. And like, I'm a pretty seasoned Minecraft player, and even his first episode, he dropped a couple of tips. I'm just like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. So there's always something. It's a very deep game for people that are interested in that kind of stuff. Another content creator is Exumavoid. Again, have all the links in the show notes. They're one of the members of Hermitcraft, and is someone that puts a lot of time, thought, and energy and research into their content. And I really enjoy them. They're fun. All of these creators are family friendly, by the way, to the best of my knowledge. And he was actually one of the people we interviewed on the Spawn Chunks. I believe it was episode 94. I'll look that up after I record this, but had a great time talking with him. Talked about the behind the scenes of running one of the biggest servers on YouTube and how all that happens. Really, really cool person to follow online and watch their content. Cubfan135 is another member of Hermitcraft and is the kind of Minecraft creator that likes to use what I call every part of the buffalo in the game. He really reminds me a lot of the time that there are just so many different blocks and so many different things that you can do if you don't get too hung up on what you're doing. Like if you just let your imagination fly a little bit. He always likes taking on massive projects. He often focuses his new content around new mechanics as well. So like when he starts a new series, he's also looking to go straight to, well, what's the new stuff? I've been playing this game for years, and I don't want to do the same old. I want to do something new, something different. And so when you're watching through his content, it doesn't get stale, which is nice. I know you're not super into Minecraft, but have you ever come across any creators and just like watched a video out of curiosity?
I've watched a couple of your stuff back in the day when you were posting stuff, and everything. I can't get into Minecraft. Man.
It's one of those things, like the people that like it love it, and then the people that can't get into it, they're just not interested because it scratches a certain itch.
See, for me, my day job scratches the itch that Minecraft fills. So at the end of the day, when I watch people do stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, I understand why people like this. I do this all day.
So another content creator that I really enjoy is Mumbo Jumbo. Mumbo for short. He doesn't really use the Jumbo very much, but that's the channel name. He's a very technical player. And in Minecraft, you can do a lot of stuff that involves building like machinery and circuits and making things move or do things that you want to do automatically. And he's also a member of the Hermitcraft server, but he has a very different take on things. And the thing that I like so much about Mumbo is that even though as technical as he is, he still explains what he's doing very well. And what he's doing is not necessarily always the most practical. Like sometimes he's making it more complicated because he enjoys the challenge of making it more complicated, but he still explains what he's doing. So if you wanted to take the principle and maybe say, I don't need 10,000 items a minute, maybe I only need like 100 items a minute. You can kind of like scale it down to something that's easier to handle. He does it kind of like for the bragging rights and for the fun of it, right? And I always find that really cool. Something else that I really enjoy about his content is that without a doubt, like he couldn't hide how much fun he has if he tried. It's infectious to watch him play the game. Something silly will happen, something will go wrong, and he will just laugh himself silly. And it's all in the video. Like it's all recorded and it's all part of the tag along that you have with these creators. Which is something very similar to the next creator, Iskall85. Iskall can land on the sillier side of Hermitcraft. If you're detecting a theme, I do watch a lot of Hermitcraft content creators. And the thing that Iskall brings is just like the imagination and the aesthetic choices that he brings they're just unique and everything has a reason. Like it might be a little bit silly, but it's still a solid thing. You know, it's an idea that he has and he follows it through. Like maybe he wants to make a giant robot that will take items from other players and turn it into prizes, or create a mini game and create a frenzy, you know, amongst the other members of his server to try and collect all the things, like a mini Pokemon game or something. There's some really off the wall stuff. Sometimes it doesn't always land. Like sometimes it's a little bit forced. The jokes are a little bit groany, like that kind of thing. But like, you know, the content is aimed at slightly younger audiences, that kind of thing. But I really do enjoy his content because he's not afraid of reminding people, like, don't take it too seriously. It's just a game. Like some people get into Minecraft and they're building castles and they want to make it all look perfect. And I'm one of those people sometimes that gets caught up in it. And Iskall's content is just like, let's make a giant frog. I don't know why. I just want to. And let's put a mustache on it. Like just all that kind of stuff is just really silly fun. And it's kind of a nice refresher. It's like, yeah, you have to let go sometimes and just kind of like let inspiration take you where you want. Whip, FWIP, is another creator that I follow. Speaking of inspiration, now this is someone that takes Minecraft and does a lot more, I want to say like almost art content. He builds towns and castles and steampunky builds, and he builds mountains. He just takes on these massive projects, but he really gets caught into the details of it. Like, what is your experience as a player? You know, as someone that plays video games, Lou, you'd probably appreciate this, even though if you know Minecraft isn't your thing. He designs his Minecraft worlds like he's designing a level in a video game. So yep. He's thinking about things like Zelda games or, you know, Mario games or other games that he's played where he's had an experience walking around a level and then tries to recreate that sense of depth. And I appreciate that you know, like that level of artistic kind of commitment to something. So he's a good person to watch as well. And I don't want to leave out any of the female creators that I follow. And these are just kind of like the tip of the iceberg. I kind of grabbed like 6 or 8 that were kind of front and center in my brain. Gemini Tay is a really well-spoken, down-to-earth content creator. And she puts her love of Minecraft forefront and center in her content. You cannot miss it. And again, one of those people that just has a really good time making the videos, likes building, is a great builder, and is starting to get into more survival stuff. We've interviewed her on the Spawn Chunks as well. She's an absolute delight to listen to. Really easygoing, and I think sets a really good example for a lot of younger Minecrafters. And so I try to champion her channel as best I can. She's also an Atlantic Canadian. She's up in Newfoundland, which is really cool. So because not all the time do you run into other Minecrafters that are like, I find it, there are Canadians, and there are some pretty famous Canadian Minecrafters, but there's also like, you don't really find them locally. So to find her so near to me was kind of a fun surprise. And last but not least, Elaine Eddy is a recent discovery of mine, an Australian creator currently playing in a hardcore world, just like Pixel Riffs is that I mentioned at the top of the list. She's got over 105 hours. So she's lasted and lived for 105 hours logged in this world, and continues to count up as she plays on. So there's always that back of the stream tension of like, what's going to happen? Like, is it going to be a hairy episode, or what is she going to be up to? Also, very well spoken, super sweet individual. All of these people are pretty chill when it comes to their content. They're not shouting at the mic. They're not. Their content is king. They don't necessarily want to be a superstar, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Which is really refreshing.
Those are the kind of people I like to watch.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And because of the time difference, Elaine Eddy is usually streaming when I'm eating breakfast because she's Australian. And so I will very often just kind of like lurk in the background and watch while I'm eating breakfast. Again, I will have links to all of these in the show notes. It's not much of a rundown of what I've been watching on their channels. It's more like just a kind of a recommended list of like, look, if you're trying to get started into watching some Minecraft content and you want to check out some people that are doing some things on a regular basis at a high level, then these are the people that I would recommend. And I would be remiss if I didn't point people towards my channel on Twitch, because I do this, and it is part of my job. I stream the same kind of chill content, I'd like to think, on twitch.tv/JoelDuggan.
Actually, I have a recommendation for the Internet Minute later on that is definitely someone that does do streams on YouTube once in a while, or Twitch once in a while, and they're posting them on YouTube, and that's how I've been watching them. So I'm going to have a YouTube recommendation of my own later.
Nice. I think I know who you're talking about. It should be fun. So what have you been up to, man? Like, what have you been watching?
I've been itching for some Marvel. So this morning while I was making my breakfast, I watched Loki. And it's only one episode. It's about 55 minutes long. I'm not sure how long this season for Loki is going to be. I have not paid attention to how many episodes it's going to be. But what they're setting up, it's got to be a good 8 or 9 episodes. I was hooked from the moment it begins, because it begins in that moment in Endgame where we all go, what the hell? And that is when the Tesseract gets loose and Loki picks it up. And that's exactly where the show begins. I should warn listeners, I may spoil a few things, but for the most part, almost everything you've seen in the trailers and the little teases they've been giving for the last couple of weeks, it's all the first episode. Almost all of it. There's very few things that are later episodes. Essentially, Loki broke time. Is pretty much what you find out. Apparently, the universe is in a constant time stream that is supposed to go in one direction, and everything we do is predetermined. And when things step out of their predetermined lane, that's when they come in and they collect you. They bring you to jail. They reset you, put you back in time where you're supposed to make the right decision, and they force you to make the right decision.
Is this similar to what the Ancient One was talking about with Banner in Endgame?
I think it's kind of what it is. The basic premise, you get a tutorial. They make Loki sit in front of a screen. So they explain why he's going to be on trial.
Nice.
And and he's thinking it's because he killed people. It's because he picked up the Tesseract. That's why he's going to jail. He wasn't supposed to do that. And what you find out is that somewhere, millennia ago, there was a multi-universe war over who was the right timeline. And timelines were fighting with other timelines. And along the way, 3 individuals stepped forward, merged all of the timelines, and broke the multiverse and made it a single universe. And whenever anybody steps outside the main timeline, they become what's called a variant. So he's become the Loki variant. He's the one that didn't do what he was supposed to do. And so they have to go back and they have to put him back. They have to stand him on trial, punish him, put him back in place where he's supposed to be so that the timeline is maintained.
Interesting. So does the, I guess you don't answer this if it's a major spoiler or you might not know. If they put the variant back, does the variant then remember the detour? No.
No.
Sort of like Men in Black sort of situation.
So that's the vibe. They call it resetting, and they haven't said it means that they put you back, but I can't imagine that it's not that they put you back.
Yeah, it's like you're there, you just don't realize that you've left because if they put you back at the right time precisely, then it's like you never left. That kind of time travel is always finicky, and they had a lot of fun with that in Endgame in terms of how they explain it and how Hollywood gets it wrong all the time, but
they have fun with it 5 minutes into this show. When Loki escapes, literally a portal opens up and like 3 guys in suits in like military outfits come through the gate, and he looks at them like, what the hell is this? And they literally are like, we're here to arrest you. And he's like, I'm the god of mischief. What are you going to do to me? And so the woman hits him with a baton, and it slows him down to like a third speed. So she's moving in full regular speed, and his face is like, and she's like, yeah. And if you talk to me that way again, I'll hit you again, and I'll slow you down even more. And just so you know, you're moving at that speed, but you're still feeling the pain at regular speed. And you're like, oh, these people don't mess around.
I'm glad that Marvel has got a sense of humor about this kind of stuff, because otherwise it just gets so thick so fast, in terms of timelines and alternate timelines. And so if they're trying to maintain a singular universe timeline, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So what does that mean for Marvel's multiverse plans?
I have a funny feeling that that's what Loki's going to tie into.
Oh. Well, which makes sense because Doctor Strange has got a close tie-in with time, being the person that keeps the time stone.
Yes, and he's the multiverse. It's called the Multiverse of Madness. So I have a funny feeling Loki's going to tie into it. They introduce Owen Wilson, and he is an agent for that they call the TVA, which is like the Time Variant Association or something like that. And he's like the guy they send when somebody's like a rogue time variant. And he's hunting somebody. And they don't really tell you who it is. He's introduced and it's like the 1500s. And he's like in an old church. And somebody's been murdered that's important to the timeline, that's not supposed to be dead. This little girl saw it all, and he walks over and he goes from speaking English to the guy he's with to speaking like ancient Italian or whatever it is that he's supposed to be speaking. And he starts talking to this little girl, and he says to her, "Did you see who did it?" And she's like, "Yes." And so she kind of hints at who the bad guy is, but you never get a distinct answer as to who the bad guy is. And then at the end of the first episode, they possibly reveal to you who the real bad guy is that he's chasing. But it's somebody that's figured out what's going on, and they're running through time, causing problems.
See, I like that kind of a setup in that you've got Owen Wilson is not necessarily chasing Loki. He's chasing this big bad. And then Loki, the god of mischief, just kind of comes in sideways, and then he kind of has to deal with Loki as well. But then he's still trying to do the hero thing and save the day. But then he has to deal with Loki doing Loki stuff all the time. Yeah, that sounds cool.
And so the premise is because Loki is a variant himself, and because he's so eminent or powerful, he thinks he can use Loki to help him catch this other variant. And so he gets the judge that's going to judge Loki to let him be like released to his custody. And then he has a sit down with Loki where they recap everything that's happened to Loki. And then even show Loki his own future. And they're like, this is what you were supposed to do. And he goes, but I wouldn't do that. That's not me. Why would I do that? And they're like, because you did. And he's like, but why the, and he's like, but this doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't do that. And he's like, but you did. He's like, that's not me. And he's like, it's going to be you.
The inevitability argument. Yeah, that's, especially with actors as talented as Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston. Trying to remember who played Loki. I feel like given, I don't know if Wilson's done a lot of theater, but I know Hiddleston has, and so given his theater background, I can see the play with that being really fun.
It was 50 minutes. It felt like 20 minutes, and I was entertained for the whole 50 minutes. And it made me going, oh man, I can't wait to see where it's going next week, because this whole episode was just the setup for what they're gonna do. And my favorite bit, because it was confusing me in the trailer, it was super confusing me in the trailer. In the trailer, they show this scene where Loki is in a business suit on an airplane, and he puts on a parachute, and he jumps out of the plane and says, Heimdall and Thor, you better get me, and then they rainbow bridge him out of there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole scene, every time I see the scene, I'm like, what is that? That is them showing him his past. That is something we've never seen of Loki before. Are you familiar with the story of, from this, I think it was the 60s or 70s, a guy hijacked a plane, made the plane fly over Washington, and then he got the government to pay him a bunch of money so he wouldn't blow up the plane. And then when the pilot was flying over Washington State, he jumped out of the airplane, and they've never seen or caught this guy ever again, and he got away with millions of dollars.
No, I don't know the story.
I forget the guy's name, but it's one of these like urban legends that's real, but that like they've never caught this guy. Nobody knows what happened to him. DB Cooper. That's what it is. The guy's name is DB Cooper, and nobody knows who he is, why he did it, or whatever. They reveal that Loki was DB Cooper. And the only reason he did it is he lost a bet to Thor.
Nice.
And so they show him this, and because Owen Wilson is trying to explain to Loki, you're not evil, you're mischief, but you seem to be doing bad things. You should be doing more mischief. And he's like, I do what I do. And he's like, yeah, but then you did this. This is my favorite. And then he shows the DB Cooper video, and it cuts back to Loki, and Loki was like, that was a dumb bet. And he's like, yes, you need to do more things like this.
Dumb bets don't disrupt the universal timeline.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, that's cool. I mean, it sounds like Wednesdays are going to be the time to tune into Disney Plus, which is good because like I've just sort of reached that point where...
I'm too busy.
No, well, too busy, but like the... I don't want to have to look, right? It's the Netflix scroll problem. It's the what service is playing what can I find where now thing. Again, I realize it's a first world problem with all, to have, but when you're doing and looking for content to talk about and when you enjoy an escape of an hour long, series once a week, once Falcon and the Winter Soldier was over, I'm just like, well, I guess I got to figure out what I'm going to do between now and Loki. And I really haven't found that thing. I just haven't had much of a chance. And I mean, it's fine. It's also nicer weather. I've been spending more time outside, reading on the balcony, that kind of thing. So I'm not complaining. But it does kind of like when one service like Disney Plus is having these monster hits and there's a few weeks in between them, it kind of makes you like, it really makes you realize just how good they are when you've got a service or several other services that you can turn to that have a lot of content, and you're just like, I'll just wait. For me, I'm noticing that the value in a lot of these better received series is that I don't have to think about it. Like I know what I'm watching next, and I appreciate that of just like, Wednesdays now, probably, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to like Loki. And now it'll just be like, well, whatever I'm watching today, because I don't really have a lot of time to watch like multiple things at once. It's usually just one thing. Wednesdays will be Loki. I no longer have to worry about Wednesdays, whether that's breakfast or dinner or whatever it is that I want to do. So it'll be fun to explore that.
because things are not back to normal yet.
No, exactly.
Everything that streaming services be trying to shove me lately has been really serious stuff.
Yeah.
Like everything is heavy. And with everything that's going on, Erica and I have often been like, I don't want something heavy. I want something goofy. I want something silly. And as much as the Marvel stuff sometimes gets a little heavy, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I laughed a whole bunch while watching that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't super heavy. WandaVision. WandaVision was goofy, serious, silly. It was all over the place, but it wasn't like in your face heavy all the time.
There's also a huge element of fantasy to both of those shows, right?
Yeah.
And so you can, it's not like you're tuning in to watch like Murder Mystery of the Week, because I'll just watch the news. Like I don't need that kind of content. I don't understand why they're always so popular. Same thing with, I see it in podcasts all the time. Biggest thing the last 4 or 5 years in podcasting. Everybody's talking about true crime stories. I don't need more of that in my eardrums, thanks. Like I'm much happier listening to a bunch of lighthearted people talk about tech news or, other things that I enjoy,
It's one of these things that I don't talk about my day job. My day job, I look at really serious stuff that's really depressing and like super heavy all the time. Like I read things that would literally make the average person cry every day, all day. When I'm ready to relax, true crime, and that's what I've been looking at all day long.
Yeah.
I do not have any interest. But I guess for the average person, they're doing the opposite. That's the way I guess that's the way my coworkers and I have discussed it, is the average person is the opposite.
No excitement, no drama, pretty mundane. They're looking for something juicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dramatic. Yeah, I can see that. I could sort of see that. I just my day job, I get pulled in so many directions professionally every day that my head is spinning by the time the day is over. So I'm just like, okay, I just need something fun and relaxing. And I do keep up on world events and world news too. So like I don't need more of that kind of drama. So it's nice to have an escape. But yeah, it's a tough balance. And I'm not criticizing anybody for liking those things. I'm just bewildered by it and why there are so many of them.
I like murder mystery stuff, but it's gotta have that moment of not serious. Like they're looking for the bad guys, but maybe the hero's kind of goofy. Or the hero has a different way of looking at the world. It's not all gloom and doom. It's not the cop chasing the murderer this week. It's the weird eccentric PI who catches the bad guy this week. You know what I mean? That's kind of my shtick.
I didn't watch the whole series, but I enjoyed the first few seasons of Castle for that.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I'm also a big Nathan Fillion fan, but like it had that kind of nice new take, slightly lighter content. I mean, it got heavier as the seasons went on.
The heavier stuff was the bad parts of the show.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It might have even been why I tuned out, or it could have been just I got sick of trying to hunt it down to watch it.
Since we're on Disney Plus, I will recommend The Bad Batch. I'm going to recommend an animated Star Wars show, which I guess I didn't think I was going to recommend because I didn't have any interest in it. But I watched a couple episodes and it's not bad. If you liked Clone Wars and all the other stuff that they've done, they're doing it again. And it's got tie-ins to The Mandalorian and a bunch of other stuff. I'm curious as if when Mandalorian comes back, maybe we might get tie-ins with live-action actors to The Bad Batch.
Well, I know that they had some relation or some sort of dealings with the story for Ahsoka in season 7, but it was also the part of season 7 from Clone Wars that I tuned out because I didn't like it. It all felt forced. It was one of those things where Disney was like, come back after years. The series was unfinished. Now the final season 7 of Clone Wars. But wait, here's 4 or 5 episodes of people that you don't know anything about that you have to watch first. And I was just like, I don't want this. Like I watched it only in the odd event that there might be a nugget of story that would be relevant moving forward. And I think something might have applied to Anakin, but most of the time I was just waiting for Ahsoka's stuff to really pick up. And that's where the series got good.
The Bad Batch's story is super easy. In Clone Wars, if you watched, there was an episode about a bunch of clones that were like the clone rejects.
Mm-hmm.
That's these guys. They're the Bad Batch. They're the three. They're like the six guys that nobody cares about. They're the clones that were like basically they should have been scrapped, but instead they think so outside the box they throw them on suicide missions. That's the basic premise. And when Code 66 or whatever it is that all the clones turn on the Jedi and kill them, these guys didn't get that programming. So they're like, why are we killing Jedi? This doesn't make any sense. And so they realize they have to pretend like they're the other clones. And what's his name? Tarkin doesn't fall for it and sends a hit squad for them, and now they're on the run. That's the basic premise. Oh, and they have a kid tagged along with them. There is another experiment that the clone people were working on, and she's kind of become friendly with them, and they kind of find out that she's going to get taken out too, so they bring her with them.
Well, it's interesting that they then end up protecting a younger person. That might be enough to get me to watch, because the thing that drove me nuts was it was so stereotypical. Like,
Yep.
There's the nerdy guy that has thick goggles and does all the techie stuff. And he was like, oh, God. Like,
it does something interesting, though, that I didn't expect when I watched the first episode. One of their characters, one of the Bad Batch, he's a jerk. And, like, every time he talks, you're like, oh, if I have to sit through 6 episodes of this guy or 12 episodes, a whole season of this guy, I'm going to scream. He's the one of the batch that turns against them. And he ends up being the clone that's hunting them down.
I wonder if I can remember who that is. Don't tell me, but I'm wondering if I was to look at them again or see a clip, if I could figure out who that would be. Because I remember there's a lot of them, more than one, that rubbed me the wrong way.
He was like the one character that I was like, oh, this guy's going to drive me nuts. And then as soon as he became the bad guy, I was like, oh, okay, I'm okay with him being the bad guy. And like I said, it's got Mandalorian tie-ins. In the 3rd episode, there's a bounty hunter chasing them. It's one of the bounty hunters from Mandalorian. Somebody else is chasing them at one point, and they hint at it being somebody else. They even have a callback in the Clone Wars. There was a guy who was a clone who was basically like the deserter. He left to go start a family.
I don't remember who that is, but I remember that plot.
They go and find him, and they hide out with him for a while. I wasn't sold when they showed the trailer. I was like, oh, this looks dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I watched it, and I was like, the first episode didn't 100% sell me. But by the end of the 2nd episode, I was like, this isn't bad.
And even when the Star Wars cartoons are not knocking out of the park, there's still Star Wars cartoons. Like, there's still action and lasers and explosions. And yeah, there's usually something. I mean, I will say that I did not love every episode of The Mandalorian season 2. I liked the season. I really, really enjoyed some episodes, but there's a couple I'm just like, really? Do I have to sit through all of this? And so the fact that, I can see the value in some of the cartoons, because even, no, not Clone Wars. What was the one that happened now? Rebels. So even with Rebels, there's some stuff before it got serious later on. There was definitely some kiddie episodes that really kind of drove me the wrong way.
Yeah, the first season of that show is really hard to watch.
No, it was like Aladdin in space.
Yeah, it's really kiddie. And then as all of a sudden, when you get to like season 2, it's like they turned it on a dime and they went, oh yeah, you thought this was goofy? Here we are with the serious Star Wars stuff. And you go, oh, wait. And that's when I liked the show, was after its 2nd season.
Do you find that Bad Batch is a little bit more serious off the start? Is it aimed at really young kids, or is it more of a kind of like 12 to 15 sort of thing?
It feels like it's aimed at 12 to 15, but that the kid character is there to tie in the younger kids.
Right. Yeah. Something for the younger kids to identify with. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Moving on into the Internet Minute, brought to you by, of course, you. The Citadel Cafe is 100% listener supported. If you're getting value out of the show, please consider putting a little bit of value back in. You can become a member at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Joining at any level will get you an invite to the member-only Discord server that is shared with my own personal Patreon page as well as my Twitch page. So there's a good 100 or so people in there right now. There are multiple levels with different rewards like Discord roles and bonus episodes to choose from. Patron count is at 23. I just checked this morning. That's steady on from last week. Our goal each month is to have at least one more patron supporting the Citadel Cafe. If you'd like to do that, again, the webpage is patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. My pick this week is cute and dog related. I've been sharing this with a few friends. Laura absolutely loves this, has become a massive fan. Hi, This is Tatum is an Instagram and TikTok account where two owners in Maine, to tie it into Lou, give their dog Tatum a voice, mostly done by the male owner of the dog. And it is hilarious. He has his own sort of accent. He has his own little silly cartoon voice. And most of the time it's really the dude having a conversation with himself, with the other voice being Tatum.
Yeah.
And at times, I believe it's his wife, plays a role. And so there's a little bit of acting involved, but not much, because I don't necessarily know if she always knows what Tatum is going to say next. Tatum plays the antagonist goofball, straight man played by the husband, and then like the innocent bystander often played by the missus. Anyway, cute. Tatum is a beautiful dog. He's a kind of a copper color. I want to say pit bull terrier, something like that. Just really, really appealing looking dog. And the things that they go through are like any dog owner would be able to relate. I don't even own a dog. I'm only with someone that has a dog, and I get most of the jokes now. Like, just,
yep.
It's an absolute joy. So I've been spreading it around as best as I can.
I want to say, the dog is apparently a Pixel Fund rescue. Pixel Fund is actually a really cool dog and cat placement program. They're in Maine, Georgia, and Florida. We've actually almost adopted a cat from there once or twice.
Oh man, you should see the early pictures of Tatum. Bad shape. Was a rough go.
Pixel Fund specializes in animals that have been in rough shape or have been in bad family predicaments and whatnot, and they look to find them good homes.
I don't know for sure, but I would guess that it wasn't so much abuse as it was maybe just got lost, abandoned, or
it's usually neglect.
Yeah, I think it was more like a lost dog on the streets, had something wrong, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't dig into that far, because mostly what I watch for is the latest, hilarity. That I really jive with the sense of humor. If you have a dry sense of humor and you just like kind of like non sequiturs and stuff like that, it's really, really funny. What's your pick this week?
I don't often have a pick, but I have a pick this week because it's something that's near and dear to my heart. Resident Evil 8 came out about maybe a month ago. I've managed to play through it and beat it twice. But that's because I'm a weirdo. And I didn't particularly find it scary, but Scott Johnson of the Morning Stream someone bought it for him as a gift. So he is streaming 2 hours a week of him playing through the game from beginning to end. And watching a 50-year-old man playing a scary horror game has been the delight of my week every week. It is so funny. If you don't watch any episode, if you're not going to watch the whole thing, if you're going to watch any episode, watch the second episode where your hero has to go into a mansion with creepy dolls and then get chased around in a basement by a giant baby monster in the dark, and you have to solve puzzles to get the thing. And so picture a 50-year-old man screaming and actually have to pause the game and take a deep breath. And I've never laughed so hard.
Scott's a friend, and he gets into it. I've seen him stream a number of times, and he's one of the people that I admire that can really do the suspension of disbelief and get sucked into a video game like that. I think I'm more like you. I might get a jump scare now and again if I ever played anything like that, but I don't really get scared You know, like I don't get anxious or really start to feel cautious, you know?
And to even hit the nail on the head even harder, his kids are watching the stream, and so while he's playing, they sneak down into his office and poke him from behind.
His kids are all adults too. Like I think his youngest is over 20 now.
I keep it playing in the background while I'm working, as though I'm not fully focused because I've played the game before. But then when I see where he's going and I know where he's at because I've been there, I'm like,
Right.
oh, okay, I'll tune in. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh yeah, this is the scene where that thing is going to chase you. And then it's like, it starts chasing him and he's like in tears crying. And I'm like,
yeah, I would probably watch that because I know Scott, but like I see it a lot online and I don't always get sucked into that, but I can understand why
it's
people...
not my thing. It's totally not my thing.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not a YouTube guy. I'm not a Twitch guy.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw this video, I was like, I've played it. And because I've listened to his podcasts and stuff,
yeah,
I've just never laughed so hard. And whenever I see it, it's always some like young kid. It's never a 50-year-old guy playing the game that's screaming.
It comes across as more genuine from Scott, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. Well, man, we've got lots of streaming recommendations and stuff this week for everybody. That's awesome. That wraps up this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can get more information about the show and links to some of the things that Lou and I talked about at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can email us at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or find the show by name on Twitter. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. Word of mouth, however, is the easiest way to support the show. Just tell a friend about the Citadel Cafe and where they can go to listen to it. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I'm doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio at joelduggan.com. You can also check out my other podcast all about Minecraft. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about this week, and that is happening over at thespawnchunks.com. And of course, you can follow me on social media at Joel Duggan, and I will point you towards Twitch again at twitch.tv/Joel Duggan, where I will be streaming Minecraft later on this week, hopefully updating the Citadel server to the new Caves and Cliffs update. Lou, where can people find you online?
The easiest place to find me is under the name Busy Zombie Lord on all the social media that matters. And you can also check out my podcast, Zombies Ate My Podcast, where I'm not sure what we're covering next week. I need to talk to Ryan about that.
Good luck. I think he's on vacation.
Yeah.
Hi, Ryan. You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.